everyone, welcome back to So Arizona. I am so excited to bring you another tomato taste testing video. So we are right at the very beginning of June. Today is June 1st, and so we are finally solidly into tomato season here in southern Arizona. I know some of you up in Phoenix have been getting tomatoes for a while, but here in Tucson, our tomatoes are just starting to ripen and come into our kitchens. So I have quite a few different varieties here. Some of them I have grown before, but I don't believe that I have highlighted any of these in my previous taste testing video. And so that is partly why I've chosen these. I've got 7 different varieties. Some of them are for containers and some of them are more for bigger spaces. So I wanted to select a few of each kind so that that would accommodate those of you who are growing in smaller spaces or in bigger spaces. So let's get into this because we've got 7 tomatoes to cover and I don't want this video to last for 3 days. Also, before we get started, I want to let you know that I will be including each of the varieties that I talk about today in the description box below, as well as the company that I purchased my seeds from. You may be able to get your seeds from other companies as well, but I'm going to include the company that I got my seeds from. All right. So the first tomato that I want to talk about is this little cute orange tomato. I just love this one. This is one that I have grown before, and it is called the Afghan Orange tomato. I like this tomato because it is on the milder side. It's not too acidic, so for those of you who get some tummy troubles from acidic tomatoes, you might like this one. I grew this one last year, and although it didn't do as well at the beginning of the season and our first go of tomatoes, but it did really well when I replanted for monsoon season. It's been doing really well actually this time earlier in the season, our first time around. So I'm not really sure why, but I will take it, and I'm hoping it's really going to do even better during monsoon season this year as well. A few little facts about this tomato is that it has just 68 days to maturity, which is actually really good. So here in southern Arizona and in the Southwest in general, if you have a shorter number of days to maturity, generally speaking, your tomatoes are going to do better. And that's because tomatoes really struggle in those hot summertime temperatures. The shorter number of days to maturity will mean that we're more likely to get 2 crops, one at the beginning and then another one the second time around monsoon season. Because we do have 2 short growing seasons, tomatoes with a shorter number of days to maturity are going to do better and produce more. This is an indeterminate tomato, and so it will keep growing until it's frost killed. It may slow down during the hottest part of the summer here in southern Arizona, but it will probably pick back up and produce again once the monsoon season comes and it cools down just a little bit. All right, so let's cut into this and see what it looks like and then see what it tastes like. All right. It is always so exciting to cut into a lovely tomato. It is so juicy and so yummy. So let me just give this a taste here and see. That's really good. That is so good. It's very juicy. It's not mealy at all. It has a nice light tomato flavor, but it's also slightly sweet. Not too sweet, but just ever so slightly sweet. So this one is supposed to be good kind of for an all-around tomato. You can eat it fresh. You can make sauces out of it, pretty much whatever you want. And it is just so pretty, y'all. This is a very orange color. It almost has a bit of a red blush kind of around the blossom end of it. So I think it's really pretty. I think that this Afghan orange tomato is definitely one that you would need to handle with care, because as I am feeling this tomato, I can tell that the skin is really thin, probably easily bruised. Most likely one of the reasons that we don't find this in the grocery store is that I really doubt that this would transport well. I think it would be too delicate, but that is what makes it such a great tomato. It's got a very tender skin and is super juicy, and it is just so cute, y'all. Just look at this. All right, so the next one that I want to talk about is called the Rosso Sicilian. This is one that I grew last year as well, but I didn't highlight it because honestly, I didn't love it last year. I thought that it was just okay, but this year it has been such a phenomenal tomato, and the reason is that it actually overwintered in my yard. So it survived the winter time and it came back again this year, and I think that that actually has been what has made it such a delicious tomato this year, because it has had a robust, very established root system that's been in the ground for over a year now. So the plant is completely covered now with tomatoes. I got 9 tomatoes off of it just yesterday afternoon, and every few days I'm harvesting probably that many. The Rosso Sicilian is an Italian heirloom tomato. It's going to give you fruits that are about 6 to 8 ounces. They can be ribbed, although this one is not ribbed at all. So most of them are ribbed, but some of them are not. And so they're very cute tomatoes, I think. Very picturesque, like something you would see on the front of a food magazine. And it also, since it is kind of, I would say a bit like a beefsteak style, although not exactly, those types of tomatoes tend to get some scarring or some corking on the end that is called cat facing. And cat facing is just a physiological disorder. It doesn't affect whether or not the fruit is edible. The fruit tastes just as good. There may just be a bit more cleaning and a little bit more waste as you're having to cut away some of the scarring on the end. And cat facing can actually be caused by cold temperatures when the blooms are setting fruit. It can be caused by inconsistent temperatures. So that pretty much sums up springtime in southern Arizona. We got 90-degree temperatures way before we were supposed to this year, and then we ended up getting really nice and cool for a couple of weeks, and then now of course we're back up to close to 100, and so that will do it. That will cause some cat facing. So if you've ever seen a bloom on a tomato plant that looks giant, chances are that is a cat facing kind of event that's going on. But again, it won't affect how good the tomato tastes. It just may require a little extra cleaning, and it might look just a little unsightly when you're looking at it. Some of them are better and some of them are worse. Beefsteak style tomatoes just tend to get that more often than other types of tomatoes. This one is really good for making sauces and for making pastes. That's generally what people will use it for. I've been eating it fresh on tomato sandwiches, but I will eat a tomato sandwich pretty much every day of summer if I can, because I absolutely love them. The Rosso Sicilian tomato takes a little bit longer to reach maturity at about 70 to 90 days. So if you plant this tomato, just keep that in mind. Growing bigger tomatoes in southern Arizona can be tricky anyway, just because we have those 2 short growing seasons. So I think that it's finding the right variety and making sure you stay on top of planting time. I planted my tomatoes in December this year. I had them in the ground by the beginning of February. This week I am planting a few more seeds for some other varieties that I want to try for monsoon season. So like I said, today is June 1st. I'm going to be planting some more tomato seeds so that they are ready to set out in mid to late July. So if that gives you an idea. Let's cut into this one and see how it tastes and what it looks like. Just so pretty. This one does not have very many seeds, and I think that's probably why it does so great at being a paste tomato, because it's mostly flesh and not a lot of seed material in here. So let me just take a taste of this. You know, this is not a bad job today, having to eat tomatoes the whole video. So last year, my main complaint with the Rosso Sicilian was that it just was kind of mealy and it just didn't have as good a flavor. But I think really the secret is having more developed root systems. So if you are in Phoenix or Mesa or Chandler or someplace where you can overwinter your tomatoes in the ground or keep them going, I think this would probably be an even better tomato for you. I was really surprised that it lasted through the winter, because here where I am, just a bit south of Tucson, it can get down into the teens at night late in the wintertime. Although we did have a pretty warm winter, we still had a few nights that were about 18 to 20 degrees. So this must be a pretty tough tomato. So I really, really like this one, and I am going to be making a lot of sauce with this for sure because I have been harvesting so many of them. So every other day, 9 or 10 tomato fruits, that adds up to a lot of tomatoes for sure. All right, the next one is called the Emerald Flame, and this one is so adorable, y'all. I just love this one so much. This one is going to be good for containers. It is a semi-determinate tomato. It only gets to about 20 inches tall, so it does really, really well in a container, and it is a heavy producer. I've been getting several of these fruits every week, and it is a green tomato with yellow streaks. It's a lot like a green zebra tomato. You can expect it to reach maturity around 60 to 75 days, so that's actually on the shorter side, so that's really good. And like I said, it's a semi-determinate. And so just to review, a determinate tomato is one that will grow, it will ripen its fruit generally all at once or within, you know, a week or two of each other. You can harvest it and then the plant is pretty much done. People who like to do a lot of preserving like those kinds of plants because they can harvest it all at once and they can process it all at once, and it's really handy. Whereas a indeterminate tomato is one that will just keep going until frost kills it. I grew this one last year as well, and I found that since it's a semi-determinate, it has the characteristics of both. You will get a heavy production earlier in the season, and then that will kind of fizzle out and slow down a bit, and then you'll get a few tomatoes throughout the season from there on out. It won't completely stop, but it's definitely not as heavy as it was in the beginning. All right, so this one is about a 2-ounce fruit, I would say, and it is really beautiful. I love having this in salads because it just adds so much interest, and it is really pretty. So let's give this one a try. Y'all, this is so cute. So cute. So let me give it a taste. All right, I have to say, this is not my favorite tomato. It's not super sweet. It's actually a bit on the sour side, but what it lacks in flavor, it makes up for in texture. It's not mealy at all. It has very few seeds, and it is really, really juicy. So I think the fact that it's really cute, and it's juicy, and its texture is good, and it's prolific in a container, all of those things together definitely add up to a winner in my book, because you've got to give it some extra points for being cute, y'all. Yeah. I think this next one is the most perfect little red tomato I have ever seen. Perfectly round, 3 to 4 inch fruits on this, really productive, and it is called the Goliath Bush hybrid tomato. So this one was specifically designed to grow in containers and patios. So this is another one for you all who are growing in a small space. It only gets to about 3 feet tall, so it's a little bit bigger than this Emerald Flame green striped tomato, but it does really well in a container. I'm growing this one in my stock tank garden, and it's doing really well. It's sharing the space really well with others. I did have to provide a stake for it because it is at about 3 feet tall, so it definitely needs just a bit of support. This is a heavy producer. It's also on the shorter number of days to maturity at about 68 days, so that is a real winner. And so I am going to just cut this one open and see what it looks like. Oh yeah, this is a really good looking tomato. This is actually the first time I have grown this tomato, and it's the first time I have tried this tomato. Let me cut open another one just to verify what I'm thinking. I wish that I could give a raving review for every single tomato, but that is not a good tomato. That is mealy, and it's kind of tasteless, and it's reminiscent of those very disappointing grocery store tomatoes. So the Goliath Bush hybrid is gonna get a solid thumbs down in my book. So let's just move on from that one. Let's follow that up with something that is much more encouraging. This happens to be my very favorite tomato on this entire cutting board, and this is the Paul Robeson tomato. I've had a few of you say you've grown it and that you love it as well. This one does so well here in southern Arizona, and this is a pretty big tomato. So it is hard to grow a big tomato here. A lot of people struggle with it because of those 2 short growing seasons that we have to get a tomato to ripen in the heat and the dryness and in the short amount of time that we have. So it's difficult, and sometimes people will just opt to grow cocktail-sized tomatoes or cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, and there's no shame in that. That's exactly where I started too. But I have been finding that there are some tomatoes, like this Paul Robeson, which is a superstar in the garden, and it is a big tomato. And I've got one more to come like that too that I'm really excited to share with you. But let's go ahead and go over the Paul Robeson for those of you who aren't familiar, because it is my favorite on this cutting board here. I just absolutely love it. I'm actually going to take some cuttings of the plant so that I can get quicker seedlings. I've got a video about that. You can check that out. I'll link it in the description below. If you want to do a little shortcut and you've got some tomatoes that are your favorite, you can always take cuttings and you can get seedlings much more quickly that are bigger. All right, the Paul Robeson is a Russian tomato. It was shared with Seed Savers Exchange back in the 90s, and it is a really popular tomato. It's indeterminate. It takes about 90 days, so it's on the longer side. So you want to start this early. I started these seeds in December. As you can see, this is a really beautiful orangish red color. I really love the color so much. It's really pretty. It does get a bit of cat facing, so it's got that corky scar on it, and that's okay. We won't hold it against it because it makes up for that in flavor. It is so delicious. If you grow the Paul Robeson, just know that this is a full-size tomato plant. It is going to sprawl, and it is going to keep going until it's frost killed. So just make sure you give it enough elbow room because it probably will not share the space very well with others. I like to provide about 2 feet or 24 inches of space for my tomatoes, my full-size tomatoes, and I will provide tomato cages or stakes for them so that I can then space them about 2 feet apart. So just know that. So let's go ahead and cut into this. I'm so excited about this one, mainly because I just want an excuse to eat some more of it. Y'all don't know how hard it's been to control myself and not just dig into these tomatoes and just eat them all before I made this video. I was trying to save enough of these varieties so that I had them to do for this video, which meant I had to sit there and look at them looking pretty and delicious and not bother them. So you're welcome. I was practicing self-control for you. Oh my goodness. Tomato heaven, y'all. So it's juicy, it's flavorful, it's perfectly sweet and smoky and classically tomatoey. The texture is perfect. It has a perfect ratio of seed to flesh. It's not mealy, it's juicy. It's just so delicious. And most importantly, it is big enough to make a tomato sandwich with, which I think is an important criteria for sure. So that one is a winner in my book, and it does really well in our climate for a big tomato. It has perfect texture. It doesn't get super mealy from the heat. It's just lovely, and it's very productive too. Grow it. It's going to be good for you. All right, so this next one is a hybrid, and it is also good for a container. So you small gardeners, listen up to this one. It is the Super Bush hybrid tomato. It's an F1 hybrid, and also what's really nice about this one is that it is disease resistant to verticillium 1, fusarium 1, and also to nematodes. So if you've had any trouble with soil-borne diseases or with pests in your soil like nematodes, I've had some struggles with that in my stock tanks over the last year or so, then this one is a really great one. It only gets to about 2.5 to 3 feet tall, so really with just a bit of staking, it will work really well in even a flower pot as long as it's big enough. I would say 18 to 24 inches size-wise for a flower pot. So I've got them growing in the stock tank behind me. I did have to add some stakes because they were so completely covered in fruits that the branches were starting to bend down and snap. So I had to add a little bit of extra support. So that being said, they are very, very productive. I haven't grown this one before. This was my first year, and this is definitely one that is going to be going on my list for years to come because it does such a great job in such a small space. So I really love that. This is a semi-determinate tomato. So just like with the Emerald Flame, it's going to produce some fruit and have a heavy crop, and then it will slow way down and you'll probably get some tomatoes here and there. But if you want to get another second heavy crop and you're in southern Arizona where you can do a second planting, you may want to start with some new plants. The days to maturity on this one is about 70 days, so that's not too bad. So let's cut into this because I want to get to the juicy part. What I love about this one is that there really aren't very many seeds. It's very juicy, makes a perfect tomato sandwich. But I think probably you could do a lot of sauces and a lot of pastes with this because it's got so much flesh and not very many seeds. So let's give it a taste. This is ever so slightly sweet with a classic tomato flavor. So juicy. Let me take a second bite. So good. Really good. I would highly recommend that one for container gardens, or even for just smaller raised beds, or if you have an in-ground garden that's just smaller and you're wanting to maximize your space. My recommendation would be start them in December or January, the seeds. Plant out your seedlings in mid-February or so with some protection. You could do it earlier than that if you're up in Phoenix, I'm sure. And then once they kind of get that full first heavy crop flush, I would have new seedlings ready to replace those plants with, because then you could just keep that going and get even more productivity. So I really love that one, the Super Bush F1 hybrid. Definitely check that one out. All right, so this next one is called the Prairie Fire tomato. This one is new for me this year, and I was really tempted by the description from the seed company because they were talking about how incredibly sweet this is. When growers want to measure the amount of sugar, they will measure the bricks, and this one got a 10. So that is very sweet actually, and I've tasted these tomatoes. This is the first season I've grown them, but I've already been enjoying them, and I can attest to the fact that they are really, really sweet. They are like tomato candy. So they are about an inch across, about 3 inches long. They're red with this gold striping, so they are really a pretty tomato. I'm growing this one in my stock tank. I've got a tomato cage on it, and so far it's been behaving itself very well. Right now it's about 2.5 feet tall, I would say. Really loaded with fruit. I've gotten a lot of fruit off of it already. I'm harvesting several times a week off of this one. It's a semi-determinate tomato, about 75 days to maturity, so not too bad. So you're going to get, again, that first heavy flush and then lighter production after that. So let's cut into this because I'm going to go crossways because this one is so good. So when you cut across it, it's about the size of a quarter. That's the diameter of it. Really juicy. So sweet. Like if you're a sweet tooth and you're trying to avoid eating sugar, you should eat this tomato instead because it's so good, y'all. I just love tomatoes. Last but not least is this one. So this one's got quite a bit of cat facing on it too. This is the Dr. Wyche's or Dr. Wyche's. I'm actually not sure how you say that one. This one is kind of a small example. Normally you'll get a much bigger fruit, but this was the first fruit off of that plant for the season, and I was so excited about it and I wanted to share it in this video, so we are going to go with it with a smaller fruit. The Dr. Wyche's is an indeterminate plant, which means it's going to grow and grow and grow until it's frost killed, so definitely give it the space that it needs. And it is about 80 days to maturity, so that's not too bad. This one is going to be so juicy. I know it. And we're just gonna jump right into it. I can feel that the skin is pretty soft on this one. The cross section of it is so pretty, really, really pretty. Let me just take a little taste of it. It is yellow and it's got just a bit of an orange blush to it. That skin is really, really tender. So you know how sometimes you will bite into a tomato and the skin is a bit thick or a bit leathery? That is not what this tomato is like at all. It is very delicate, really juicy. I've just got juice running all over my cutting board right now just from slicing into it. It's almost got a bit of a tropical flavor, like very tart but also sweet at the same time. I really, really like that one. So that one is a definite winner in my book for me. So really, I don't meet many tomatoes that I don't like, but I would say the two that are my least favorite flavor-wise are this Goliath Bush tomato. Not good. And then the Emerald Flame also is not my favorite, but I would probably still grow this just because it would make the plate look really interesting. If you put this on a sliced tomato plate or on a salad or something like that, that would just be really, really pretty. So maybe just do a few little scatterings of these with some of the others to make up for what it lacks in flavor, and it is just a real beauty for sure. But for the others, I'd be really hard pressed to choose my favorite. No, that's not true, actually. That is not true. My favorite is the Paul Robeson, so I won't lie to you. That's my favorite. I would like to love all of them equally, but as we know, that's not how it goes sometimes. If you're growing in a small space, again, Prairie Fire for those of you who really like a sweet tomato. If you like the smoky one, go for the Paul Robeson. If you like one that's a bit tart and a bit sour, but also super cute, go for the Emerald Flame. And if you like one that is just an all-around yummy tomato, go for the Afghan Orange. And if you want one that is going to give you tons of tomatoes worthy of that tomato sandwich, and you're in a tiny space and you want a lot of fruit, the Super Bush F1 for sure. And one to avoid is the Goliath. Not good. If you want to have one that is good for sauce, the Rosso Sicilian is definitely a great pick. I want to talk about one other tomato fruit disorder that you may have seen in your garden, and it's called zippering. And it's where there is like this little jagged line all down one side. I'm going to do a close-up of this so that you can see it, but it looks exactly like a zipper. That is actually from when the fruit is just starting to develop and the anthers stick to the fruit, and it causes that little scarring down one side. It doesn't affect how good it is. You just have to peel that if it really bothers you. But it is thought that this physiological disorder is caused by either high humidity or cool temperatures when the fruit is developing, possibly high nitrogen in the soil. So there could be a few reasons for that. Sometimes I'll see this on my tomatoes, but I don't let it worry me at all. It doesn't mean that you've got a disease or there's anything wrong with your tomato or you can't eat it. It just is kind of a blemish, just a cosmetic problem. And it will still eat just as good, I promise you. But it's probably just, I would say, weather related. Cold temperatures, high humidity, or maybe a bit of high nitrogen in the soil. One of those things. So don't let that bother you. In the description below, I'm going to link a few related videos. One is the tomato taste test I did last year, so that if you're looking for tomato varieties to plant for monsoon season, you could check that one out. You could also take some notes on this video, and I'm also going to include a couple of other videos that I think are helpful for you. I do love a good tomato taste test report, but I have to admit that I'm a bit of a germaphobe, and whenever I go to events and there are tomato taste tests going on or other kinds of taste tests going on, I get a little bit squeamish just because there are so many hands on those cutting boards, and I don't know, maybe it's my science background, but I just can't even do it. But this I can totally get behind. I love it when people will do tomato taste tests and describe what they're tasting and let me see with my own eyes what they are eating, and then that makes it all the more fun to try it myself. I hope that this gives you some great ideas for some different tomato varieties to try in your garden. I hope that I have covered enough of both the large and the small varieties to accommodate whatever growing space you're growing in. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Kara from So, Arizona. Until next time, happy gardening.